Man, you're returning to competition after more than 2 years away. How you feeling heading into this LFA card?
I feel good. I feel good,
Mhm.
confident. Time away doesn't mean that it's time wasted. Definitely there's a lot that's been going on that I couldn't avoid. And, life is life. And, you got to handle life when it comes and take it in stride. And, yeah, but overall, I feel really good about this fight. I feel really good about moving down to bantamweight. And, yeah, being back fighting for LFA is super exciting.
Nice, nice. There's a couple things. Number one, the move down to bantamweight. Why did you
Yeah.
decide that?
You know, it's um it's something I've always wanted to challenge myself to do. It's funny when I first started MMA, I was thinking, walking around at 165 at that time, thinking, okay, maybe I'll just cut 10 pounds and I'll be a lightweight, and shows how much I knew. The guys were kind of laughing at me like, dude, you're a featherweight at least. And so, sure enough, you learn about, true weight cuts and, cut down. I wrestled, I cut down to 52 and I thought that was terrible at the time. And
Mhm.
you cut down to featherweight and you kind of figure it out and like, okay. And got that down to a science where my weight cuts were never really hard, per se. It's never fun. It's a lot of discipline and dieting. Um, but it wasn't hard. It was like I'd go in and be ready to make weight that day and cut like 4 or 5 pounds, just sweat it out. It's super easy. I remember walking in weigh-ins once, eating an apple. I was so under. So yeah, I always wanted to challenge myself. And actually, my head coach, Santino DeFranco, had brought it up, at the right time. Um, and I really just kind of set my face, so to speak, in that direction and said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do everything in my power to make that weight. And more importantly, do the test cut, see how I feel, come back, the next day. So actually, it was the last time that LFA was here. I had some teammates on the card, and, I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just act like I'm on the card. So by that date, weigh-ins, I'm going to make weigh-ins as well. And the next day, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do hard sparring rounds and see how I feel. And that's what I did. And, I felt really good. And actually, I had people saying, that's the best I've ever seen you look. So it's very motivating. It's very encouraging. And yeah, here we are.
Yeah, you make it sound so easy. The two D's, discipline and dieting, which are the hardest things I think just
Yeah.
anybody can, like try to focus on.
Yeah, it's life, right? Life can
Mhm.
be very simple if we allow it to. It's like following the God's principles. He makes life,
Mhm.
makes your pathway straight. But, we're humans, we're all flawed, and we don't make the best of decisions. It's like anyone who makes a product, like a manufacturer, it gives you certain things that you do if you want that product to work right. You don't put electronics in water. It's like what's gonna, it's like the manufacturer tells you what to do, and I've definitely humbled myself before God, and he's made my pathway straight, and I think this is part of his plan for me to be at a bantamweight, and yeah, like really, really optimizing, where I'm supposed to be. Featherweight was great, learned a lot of tough fights, but optimally where I'm supposed to be is at bantamweight. So
All right. And I want to rewind a little bit, go back to
yeah,
your last fight, February of 2020, right before the pandemic went completely haywire and nuts, and
yeah,
the world went wild. Take us back to your mind state after that fight.
man. Well, going into it, super confident, felt great, and it was the first time I ever got caught. I've been in how many different fights, what 8 pro fights at that point now, and I had never got caught like that. And it was just one of those things where, a lapse in judgment. But, if I'm speaking honest, I can go on for hours about it. It was supposed to happen. That was divine intervention. My life has changed so much since that fight. But initially, right after that fight, if you were to talk to me before, you're like, I don't got a big ego, whatever. Oh yeah, I met my ego.
Mhm.
When you get KO'd, you get elbowed, and flash knockdown, even though you're right back up, kind of thing. That's the first time you get finished. Oh, you're gonna meet your ego real quick. All your friends and family are there. So it was very humbling. It's a very humbling thing. And I understood a lot about myself, and you really have to learn, how to come back from things.
Mhm.
Not just fortunately I wasn't physically harmed. My jaw wasn't even sore the next day, which was crazy
Mhm.
because it was a flush elbow. It's a good one. Um, but it's the pride. It was the pride that was, the ego that was hurt, and it was like, wow, that just happened. So it's one of those things. It's kind of like when I fought my first debut fight. The first
Mm.
time I elbowed somebody, actually, funny enough, and cut him open, and I could smell the blood, and it was just like, whoa, this is real. It's a kind of a moment like that where you're like, well, man, you can really just get finished in here. Like, doesn't matter who you are, you fight long enough, things happen, right? So it's just one of those things, just kind of diving into the world of MMA a little bit deeper and understanding that, there's a lot of realms to it which are unexplored. And if you get enough experience, you're going to kind of traverse into those territories you haven't been in. So,
Did you realize that, like, fight night after the fight immediately, like, the humbling moment, or did it take a little bit?
I'll tell you exactly when it happened. It happened that night. You know, it was after everybody was gone and I was in my bed, and you started running everything through your head. And it's weird to say, but it's like that's when you realize what just happened. And it's not like I was concussed. I understood I lost, I understood I got elbowed pretty bad, this and that, but you really start to digest it. And that was my time. And I was like, wow, that happened. And like I said, I came face to face with my ego, and
Yeah.
I was a little distraught for a minute there. And then, uh, in days to come after that, I started to understand a little bit of what I understand now. And like I said, it had been used for my good, even though it was something that seemed bad at the time. I would never take that fight back to go any other way, or any of my losses, for that fact.
Yeah, yeah. It's great. It's a great impact, I mean, sometimes the tragedy can allow you to, come out, as a better person, and it looked like it has for you a better fighter as well.
Yeah,
What was your life like the last 2 years? Because, you're not
jeez.
competing, but you're still training. You're at one of the best gyms in the world,
Yeah.
but you mentioned some adversity earlier.
Yeah, man. I try not to get emotional, man, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's heavy. So we start at 2020. Obviously, we all go through the COVID period and lockdown. Before all that happened, it was like fight for the World Fighting Federation belt, get KO'd in 56 seconds or something like that, crazy, and then we go right into lockdown. And that was like everybody. We went into our own personal cave, and a lot of us met our own demons, and we had to kind of sit with ourselves and the life that we built, decisions we made. Fortunately, I used that time wisely, and I really worked on my mind and um, my faith. And a long story short, I actually met somebody during that time, which this relationship is over now. But that was like the last kind of straw, so to speak. um, like I said, I'll get a little personal, man. I've been celibate for over a year now.
Mhm.
I mean, completely. It's one of those things where I understood the culmination of everything that's happened in my life, where God showed me certain things through every relationship, through losses in the cage, and then after really changing my life, you would think everything just got better, and it didn't. It actually, I'm living the right lifestyle. I feel like I'm doing everything God's asking me to do, but yet I still have this adversity that really comes, and none more than when um, I got a call on November 1st, and the call was from my father's wife,
Mhm.
and she told me that he had a heart attack just out of nowhere. And I mean, this is completely just, I didn't see it coming. It
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, he's been getting sick, he's been doing this. No, I just seen him the weekend before. I just talked to him the day before. The last words I said to my father was, I love you.
Mhm.
The last words my father said to me was, I love you, and it was just over like that. The first fight that my dad came to was my LFA debut back in 2019 when I fought Jake Heffernan. And that
Mhm.
was a great fight for me. And my dad was super proud, and he was so happy. Um, so I felt very fortunate that, once again, make this long story short, that me and my father's relationship had been strained over the years at times. And there's a period of like 5 years we didn't talk. We kind of came out of that in 2019, actually late 2018. And then he came to my fight and stuff 2019. And, we had been mending our relationship and, becoming more like friends and just healing the past. Um, which we kind of broke a cycle because his father, Paris Stanford the first, actually died in a car accident when my father went to the Marines fairly young, and that was it. You know, they didn't get any, clarity. They didn't get to make up. Didn't get to say sorry. It was just over. You know, so I feel very fortunate um, that I was able to kind of put things aside, and so was he, and we were able to kind of mend our relationship before he had passed. So that's one thing. Believe it or not, that's not the end of
Mhm.
the tragedy. So that was kind of the beginning. Um, so I
Well,
guess
that
I can.
can,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
that can impact, a person's life tremendously. And I think a lot of people, many people, watching this interview will understand where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Because they've
Yeah,
been through strained relationships. I think everybody has experienced that in their life. Now you take that, you know what I mean? And I'm pretty sure, like every fighter, you use it for motivation, for something to drive you. And now you got this fight against Allan Begosso. I'm hoping I'm saying his name
yeah. I've
right.
been trying to say it right for weeks now.
Now, what is your assessment of him, man, and his skill set?
I train with elite fighters, the elite of the elite at Fight Ready.
Mhm.
I think I have great looks right now in my camp that are very much more skilled versions of him. So I'm confident. I don't see anything that I'm overwhelmed with. Like I'm like, wow, how am I going to deal with this? Um, and so I think he's a good fighter. I think he's scrappy, but at the end of the day, I got a plan, and more importantly, I got a purpose. So my hands are getting raised uh, come July 8th. So
He's coming off his first career loss. Everyone
yeah,
handles their first pro loss differently. How did you handle your first loss? How did it impact you?
yeah. First loss definitely was one of those things where I went into the cage and supremely better than the person, but it was my first time dealing with adversity. I got hit with just a wild looping punch, and it hit me right in my eye, and it pushed my left eye back 2 millimeters. It fractured my orbital, and I was blurry, distorted, double vision, and I fought like that for 15 minutes. And I ended up losing a split decision. So I handled it. I was proud of the fact that, I was able to get through that adversity. And, that was just one of those fights where it's like, once again, the realization of what you're in MMA, like, whoa, this is happening, and you have to kind of deal with it on the fly. So I didn't break down and quit. I learned how to deal with adversity, on the fly in the cage. And it was very important. And it was a great lesson. So I took from it a lot of experience. So I handled it well.
At Fight Ready, I mean, there, like you mentioned, there's the best fighters in the world training there, the best coaches. Who are the core group for you at Fight Ready?
As far as training partners or just like the
Just everybody,
group?
coaches, training partners.
Yeah, well, obviously the coaches, we got Santino DeFranco, Eddie Cha, and then fighters that are, been with me for a long time or helping me out since I've been training. You have like Henry Cejudo, you have Frankie Saenz, Ramon Salazar, Henry Corrales has been great in this camp. Been doing a lot of sparring rounds with Christian Natividad,
Mhm.
who's going to be on an upcoming card, I believe. Haley, who's in the UFC, AQ. And then there's a lot of guys like maybe people haven't heard of, like Casey Tanner, who's a great fighter and on his way to the UFC. But we have a great core group of people, and I could go on all day. I know I'm mad at leaving people out later. Why didn't I mention this guy? But it's just star-studded. I'm surprised that there's not people just parked outside every day waiting to see who goes in and out, because that's gonna be the next
Mhm.
champion. There's a lot of great fighters, and then we're blessed with people coming by now. We've seen John Jones hang out for a minute, um, Whaley,
Mhm.
um, Figueroa, like you name it. There's always people that are coming through and blessing the gym, so to speak, and we're able to benefit from that. So, it's great. And, I have to mention, a guy, Dave Zowine, who's, the owner of Fight Ready, he's just a great human being. And
Mhm.
he's in the backgrounds, kind of just making sure everything's done right and, has great standards. And it wasn't for him, then Henry wouldn't have any of those belts. He's one of those guys that made sure that he was doing, diligence at all times. So,
Yeah, I also saw that you got to, work a little bit with Claressa Shields. You know what I mean?
yeah, that was cool.
Phenomenal, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, she's definitely got a lot to learn in MMA as would be expected coming from boxing, but you know, you can't put a cap on that potential. You know, when you have somebody that has such an amazing striking uh, skill set, you know, we can work on the things as far as, you know, how do we prevent getting taken down? How do we get up? And then as we're doing all that, you know, adding that submission game, adding that grappling, you know, element, you know, to your style of fighting. And, you know, with that builds confidence. And man, that's an exciting one there. So absolutely. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. And exciting, man. You got one coming up, LFA 135. What is
Yeah.
your what do you envision in this fight? What do you want to show show the masses in this fight?
More than anything, it's proven to myself. It's proven to God, and it's making my folks proud. You know, like I said, going through the adversity, going through the tragedy, you know, after I buried my father, a week later, my mother got stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and I just buried her in April. So,
Mhm.
you know, that tragedy kept going. So, most importantly for me in this fight is to show people, prove to myself I am who's God said I am. You know, most
Mhm.
importantly, is kind of put all the doubts, fears. Everybody else believes in me. You know, I'm in the gym, do amazing things. Why would I not believe in myself? So I have to prove it to myself. But then also when I'm in the cage, I want everybody to see truly. I don't think I've ever had a fight where people have seen my potential, you know, really put out there. So I'm looking to just really have a an amazing performance and just have people talking after this and put that bantamweight division on notice.
July 8th, LFA
Oh yeah.
135, Paris is back in action. It's been a
Yes,
long
sir.
while, man, and knowing what I know now, I'm really looking forward to seeing a transformed version of you, man. Thank you so much for the time.
No, I really appreciate it. You know, it's a blessing to be here, and you know, I really look forward to being back in that cage in very rare form. You know, in a way no one's ever seen me before. And yeah, let's go, man. Time is now.